Good evening. It's a monumental day for India. India has never approached an international court for an individual. It chose to make that departure in the case of Kulbhushan Jadhav. And today, it was met with success. Success for that risk that was taken to save the life of one innocent Indian who is facing the gallows. It was blow after blow for Pakistan. Every little argument that was put forth by Pakistan at the ICJ was quashed. Kulbhushan Jadhav will live, and he will live to tell the tale of what happened to him. He cannot be executed till such time the ICJ hears this matter and disposes it off once and for all. And that could take weeks, months, even years. And no matter how long it takes, Pakistan has no option but to simply abide by this order. It was spelled explicitly by the lead judge, the president of the ICJ, Justice Ronnie Abraham, that this is a legally binding decision on both parties concerned. For India, it's a huge vindication of taking this extraordinary measure of approaching the International Court of Justice. For Pakistan, it is an embarrassing slap in the face. First, the day's story, and then we'll go straight across to our panelists.
Pakistan shall take all measures at its disposal to ensure that Mr. Jadhav is not executed pending the final decision in these proceedings, and shall inform the court of all the measures taken in implementation of the present order.
The bottom line of a downright pasting for Pakistan at the International Court of Justice at The Hague. Every argument, every brazen defense and diversion Pakistan had put up 2 days back smashed to smithereens. Yes, this case is within this court's jurisdiction. Yes, the matter is urgent and Pakistan cannot be trusted, said the ICJ. A huge victory for India, a powerful vindication of its stand on a global platform.
It is very, very clear that the Indian stand is victorious, and I must congratulate the persons concerned, including the Ministry of External Affairs.
The government and leaders across India's political spectrum hailed the ICJ judgment. Relief and satisfaction, victory of rule of law that endorses the relevance and necessity of procedural and substantive fairness denied by Pakistan.
The government shall not leave any stone unturned in its effort to save Mr. Jadhav. It constitutes an essential first step in ensuring justice for Mr. Jadhav.
Victory and relief for India and for friends and family of Kulbhushan Jadhav in Mumbai and other parts of the country who have raised a voice for his well-being.
ये बहुत बड़ा तमाचा है पाकिस्तान के लिए. पाकिस्तान पूरी तरह से एक्सपोज हो चुका है.
And the other end of the picture, Pakistan's old tired tune as it looks to find saving grace after being battered on a global platform. Little choice but to admit and be shamed, yet insisting it will keep up its fight.
Very basic thing what the court has done is to, given its ruling on a provisional measure, which is basically a procedural process, and I think that's about it.
Yes, the verdict is binding, but will Pakistan abide by it? And what are the implications of violations? Will Pakistan learn lessons from this global shaming? And can we really expect a rogue state to fall in line? That's our debate tonight on Face Off at 9.
Before we get to our face-off, let's just lay down for our viewers every argument that was put forth by the Pakistani side at the International Court of Justice was quashed today. Pakistan's argument number one was that the ICJ has no jurisdiction in this case as it concerns a matter of national security. That was quashed. Here's what the ICJ ruled. There is no question over deciding the ICJ's jurisdiction at this stage. It is very much in the ICJ's jurisdiction. The Pakistani argument, number two, was that the ICJ order is not binding on member countries. Today it was mentioned explicitly by Justice Ronnie Abraham that this order is indeed binding on both the parties concerned. Pakistan's argument number three was that India's application on Kulbhushan Jadhav was misconceived and must be dismissed. What the ICJ ruled is that Jadhav's death sentence that's been given by a military court in Pakistan is sufficient to demonstrate that there is indeed prejudice towards the rights claimed by India. Pakistani argument number 5, that consular access can be denied if the person involved is either a spy involved in espionage or is a terrorist, is involved in terrorist activities. The ICJ today ruled and very clearly said that the Vienna Convention ensures that consular access is for everybody, even for those who are charged with espionage or with terrorism. Pakistan's argument number 7, that the 2008 India-Pakistan bilateral agreement on consular access takes precedence over the Vienna Convention. Today what the ICJ said is that the 2008 agreement does not set any kind of limitations on the court's jurisdiction, neither does it set aside obligations under the Vienna Convention. So every point, every defense that was put forth by the Pakistanis was meticulously looked into by the ICJ, and a unanimous decision, all 11 judges agreeing to the 3 provisional measures that were asked by India. Let's now bring in our panel. Here in our studios, Major General Rajesh Arya, defense analyst. Dalbir Kaur is the sister of Sarabjit Singh, who was one of the Indian nationals who died in Pakistan. KC Singh, former Secretary MEA. Ashok Malik, senior journalist and resident commentator here in CNN News 18. GVL Narasimha Rao, spokesperson of the BJP. Pinak Chakravarti, former diplomat. And Taimur Shamil is joining us from Islamabad. He's a defense analyst from Lahore, Shashank Kumar is a Geneva-based public international lawyer and a former law clerk at the ICJ. I'll start with you, GVL Narasimha Rao. It is a monumental day for India at the ICJ. I laid this out at the top. This is important because this is the first time that India has approached the ICJ on the matter of an individual and his or her human rights being violated, and India's stand was vindicated. Put this into perspective. Although this is a first step, this is a significant, monumental first step.
Zakka, as you rightly pointed out, it vindicates India's position and it strengthens our resolve. And this is yet another instance where this government in particular, and Honorable Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji had ensured that India will do everything possible in its might to ensure that its citizens are safe across the globe. I think there have been several instances wherein, be it in Yemen, Iraq, where our citizens, when they were in distress, I think India reached out to them and ensured they returned home safely.
That's right.
This was a case where Pakistan overreached its hand. Pakistan was not maintaining the basic elementary human rights that are to be ensured for every citizen of the planet, and they did not even allow us consular access despite 16 such requests having been placed. So certainly this government has gone to the ICJ and because we knew from the beginning that our submissions before the ICJ will be heard and will be maintained, will prevail because of the violation of the Vienna Convention.
All the provisional measures that India has asked for were upheld today by the International Court of Justice. And more importantly, KC Singh, every defense that was put forth by the Pakistani side, whether it's on the jurisdiction of the court, whether it's on the primacy of the 2008 agreement, or even on the matter of urgency, the court went into each of those points, and today Justice Ronnie Abraham, as he read out the order, sort of deconstructed why none of those defenses hold. That is why this is such an embarrassment for Pakistan.
But let's not overreach also, because the judge reading out the judgment very clearly said that we are only establishing a prima facie case and we are not going into the merits of everything. So they established the jurisdiction, which is an Indian success. Secondly, they shot down the argument that terrorists and spies are not covered by the Vienna Convention.
Exactly.
He says there's no such restriction.
Exactly.
Now, on the issue of the bilateral consular agreement and the exception that Pakistan went and signed in March, the judge said it doesn't need to be decided at this stage, which means he has not rejected it. He thinks it can be taken up at a substantive level later. So therefore, when we come to arguments, many of Pakistan's arguments will be resurrected. But it is certainly a setback for them. Like any case, getting your case admitted is a quarter of the battle won, because you essentially have got over the initial objections.
No, it's a bigger victory because the court has said that, look, you cannot execute this man. There will be a stay, Taimur Shamil, on the execution of Kulbhushan Jadhav till such time the court hears and disposes of this matter. So it could take weeks, it could take months, it could take years. Apparently the average time frame for the ICJ to decide on matters such as this is between 1 to 2 years. So for 1 to 2 years, Kulbhushan Jadhav is a free man. Do you believe that your government completely botched up the way it defended its case at the International Court of Justice?
Well, the perspective from Pakistan is that Pakistan has already won the case in a sense by establishing that India is promoting extremism and terrorism inside Pakistan.
How?
The whole idea is that
to establish that?
To establish
Taimur, how have you established that?
Yadav,
I didn't hear anything from the ICJ today which established that.
India went to ICJ. Now, please let me complete. India has went to ICJ and Pakistan is there. Pakistan has given this verdict that any terrorist supporting or financing extremism or terrorism inside Pakistan would be hanged, and this is not the first time. Pakistan has hanged a lot of Al-Qaeda and TTP leaders, and Yadav, Pakistan thinks, is one of the terrorists. So Pakistan has sentenced Yadav. Now India going to ICJ itself is enough of an evidence that this Indian spy,
enough of an evidence for what?
Who was supporting the terrorists.
Enough of an evidence for what? How have you made that conclusion? No, Taimur, how have you made that conclusion? The court did not say anything today. Okay. One second. The court did not say anything today about Kulbhushan being a spy or that he's a terrorist. The court said nothing. The court simply said you cannot execute him till such time the court disposes of the matter today. How have you come to this conclusion?
Well, exactly. But that is what we are discussing. And what the panelist was saying earlier, that the court hasn't said anything and they have just asked to halt the execution, and Pakistan, let's see if Pakistan would do that. My point
are you saying Pakistan will not do that?
Wanted to bring
Taimur, are you saying that Pakistan will not do that? Are you saying, Taimur Shamil, very specific question. One second, very specific question. Taimur, are you saying that Pakistan will not abide by this order? Are you saying Pakistan will not abide by?
Let's see. I'm not going to get into the nitty-gritty. My point is
what do you mean,
Pakistan has made it very clear. Pakistan has made it very clear.
Major General Rajesh Arya, Taimur Shamil is in a sense echoing what the Pakistan Foreign Office spokesperson today said, that, oh, the court doesn't have jurisdiction, oh, the court can't look at national security matters. Are they going to defy what has been articulated by the Chief Justice of the ICJ as a legally binding order?
Zakka,
my point is...
No, one second, my question is to Major General. My question is to Major General Taimur. One second, I'll come back to you. Major General Arya.
Zakka, I tend to go in support of what Ambassador Casey said, that I think we are reading too much into the verdict today, number one. And I think Taimur has said inadvertently something which we need to see. I'll just correct me if I am wrong. The first point of the provisional judgment today said very categorically, I heard it live and noted down. The judge said, I quote, Pak government shall take all measures at his disposal to ensure that Mr. Jadhav is not executed till final decision of the case, and Pak government will keep the court informed the measures taken during the trials. Now, what does it I interpret it as a soldier differently. It interprets, I interpret it that way, that even the ICJ does not have the faith on the Pakistan army. Jadhav has been tried by a Pakistan army court. Jadhav is most probably in the custody of the Pakistan army, and that is why it is a directive by the ICJ to the Pakistan government, please ensure he is not executed. That means they also apprehend that the normal democratic process in the Pakistan does not exist.
In fact, the court today also
said, if the Pakistan army executes him in the time being, that's a fear even the court had it. And I also have the same fear. I would like to...
I want a clarification on this. Pinak Chakravarti, as a former diplomat, if Pakistan were not to abide by this order, despite the president of the ICJ, as he read out that order saying that this is legally binding, What are the costs for Pakistan to pay?
Well, firstly, I think let me point out one thing before I get to your question, and that is it is a unanimous decision.
Yes.
Even the Chinese judge on the panel has supported this decision.
Yes.
Now, as you know, China always supports Pakistan for all its activities, both illegal and illegal. Now, the question is that even he has not supported Pakistan in this judgment. Now, coming to your question about what if Pakistan does not abide by it. Pakistan, if you look at some of the reactions that are coming, very convoluted, saying national security, this thing, that thing, I think that Pakistan will not go against this judgment. If you see some of the other reactions, we are saying that Pakistan is a law-abiding country, Pakistan will not disrespect. Some people are saying all that in Pakistan, if you listen to some of the comments coming out of there. Now, so I think that Pakistan is not going to sort of go against this judgment. And in any case, some of them are saying, look, we were not going to execute him so soon. He has 150 days to appeal, and it's going up to August. Those are the comments that are coming out. The other important point is that Pakistan has decided that other important point is that Pakistan submitted to the jurisdiction of the court in this case.
Yes.
I mean, it could have said, sorry, we are not coming, we will not plead this case at all, and stayed away from the proceedings.
Yeah.
Of course, the judges could have given an ex parte judgment. But the question is that they did submit. Hence, Pakistan is bound by its judgment, and it will be, of course, merits of the case and all that will come later. And I agree that we should not jump to any further conclusions apart from this limited aspect.
No, I just want to read out. I just want to read out how people in Pakistan themselves are slamming the manner in which the Pakistani government handled this. Justice Shaikh Usmani, and this fits into with what Ambassador Chakravarti just mentioned.
Well, Zakka, may I just make a point here?
Yeah,
just one last point.
Quickly. I just need to read this out. Yeah, quickly.
Yeah, the point is that this is going to lead to more civil military tensions in Pakistan.
Okay.
The government will come under pressure, but the army will be in the background. But this is all being played out by the army.
Okay, Taimur Shamil may want to listen to this. Justice Shaikh Usmani, former chief. One second.
Just one point.
One second.
Just one
no,
point.
One second. Taimur, hear me out. One second. Let me just read out to you. Taimur, let me just read out to you what people in Pakistan themselves, eminent jurists, lawyers, etc. are saying about the ham-handed manner in which you guys went about this case. The former Chief Justice of the Sindh High Court, Justice Shaikh Usmani, says it was Pakistan's mistake to have appeared at the ICJ. They should not have attended. They've shot themselves in the foot. Rashid Aslam, who's a senior lawyer based in Islamabad, he says Pakistan had 90 minutes of argument time, but we wasted 40 minutes. Irfan Qadir, former Attorney General of Pakistan, says the lawyers handling these matters had no experience, the arguments had no weight, they should have been presented in a rational manner. The point is, you go do a ham-handed job, and now you turn around and say, Taimur, oh, the ICJ has no jurisdiction, oh, this is a national security matter. You have been completely exposed today on a global stage. You don't know how to react. That's why you and the Foreign Office spokesperson are all living in denial. All right, we just lost his link. We'll try and establish that in just a bit. But Ashok Malik, I'm saying this again and again. This is just a first step, but a very important, a much needed first step. And like Casey said, it is perhaps a quarter of the battle won. Where does the case go from here? Because as I understand, there is a domestic judicial process in Pakistan. Kulbhushan Jadhav has 40 days to have filed a review of this decision. That expires tomorrow. How does that affect?
You see, there are two things here. One, the two are really connected. One, yes, KC Singh is quite right. This is only a first step. We have managed to get a stay on the execution of Kulbhushan Jadhav. This is far from bringing him home safely and exonerating him from what we believe is a false case. What much of this country believes is a false case. That is a battle which is far from being won. It's a battle for the future. But the manner in which the Pakistani military court has tried and convicted Mr. Jadhav has been very, very opaque. It has not offered evidence which is available for public vetting. It has been very, very opaque. It has made its own charges, decided its own conviction, passed its own judgment, and has decided to execute. So that process of that opacity that lack of transparency is telling of a system which is a very immature and perhaps even a rogue system. And you're seeing some of that in the response, in the bravado in Pakistan today, including in the words of the panelists on this show, when he says that we may well execute him, I don't want to go into nitty-gritty, oh, this is, the court has no jurisdiction. If the court has no jurisdiction, why did you appear?
Exactly.
So the more important issue is that if you're doing all this for internal consumption, for a domestic audience, are you contravening what are civilized and legal norms, or recognized as civilized and legal norms across the world? If Mr. Jadhav is indeed a spy, by all means punish him, but prove he's a spy first.
Exactly.
Don't give us evidence.
You know, give us consular access.
Give
us consular access. Give him proper legal representation. Where is the charge sheet? Where is the judgment? Taimur Shamil, the fact of the matter is this: that today you've been exposed at a global stage. Albeit it's a first step, and I agree it's a first step. But again, we've lost Taimur Shamil's line. If we can re-establish that. Let me go across to Dalbir Kaur. She's a sister of Sarabjit Singh. She also fought very bravely to save her brother for a number of years. दलबीर जी, मैं आपको प्रतिक्रिया चाहूंगा. ये पहली बार ऐसा हुआ है कि भारत सरकार ने एक इंटरनेशनल कोर्ट पे एक इंडिविजुअल के मामले में, एक सिंगल नागरिक के मामले में आईसीजे को अप्रोच किया, और आज एक महत्वपूर्ण फैसला भी आया है जो हमारे पक्ष में है. आपको लगता है कि आपके भाई के केस में भी अगर ऐसा किया जाता, शायद वो बच जाते?
हाँ, शायद ये हमारी बदकिस्मती थी कि बार बार मैं पिछली सरकार को बोलती रही, और जब भी कभी किसी अधिकारी से भी मिलती थी तो मैं यही उनको राय देती थी. और सारे जितने भी मैंने जजमेंट और एफआईआर में उनके जो कमज़ोर पहलू थे वे सभी अलग से मैंने लिखे थे, और जाकर बोलती थी कि अगर हम इन बातों को अंतर्राष्ट्रीय अदालत में रखते हैं तो मुझे पूरा यकीन है कि सरबजीत सिंह बाइज्जत बरी होगा और रिहा होकर आएगा. लेकिन उन्होंने सुनी नहीं, उन्होंने बहुत हल्के में लिया. और ये सरकार जो है, इन्होंने उचित समय पर उचित कदम उठाया, और जिसका कि आज परिणाम बहुत अच्छा है, बधाई पात्र है. लेकिन उनकी जो मैं तो इसमें नालायकी शब्द का इस्तेमाल करूंगी, उनकी नालायकी थी कि आज सरबजीत उस वजह से हमारे बीच में नहीं है, और उसके साथ जो कुछ हुआ
आज के फैसले को दलबीर जी, आपका क्या प्रतिक्रिया है कि आप मानती है कि पाकिस्तान इस फैसले को मानेगा, मतलब इसको इंप्लीमेंट करेगा कि कुलभूषण जाधव को एग्जीक्यूट नहीं करेंगे? All right, we've lost Dalbir's audio, but let me go back to Taimur. Taimur, it comes back to what Ashok Malik was saying. The fact is that you have to first give us the charge sheet. Tell us who the lawyer who defended Kulbhushan Jadhav. Where is the judgment? Who was the judge who sentenced him? And why is it that after 16 repeated requests for consular access, you've not acceded to it? If you had, you probably wouldn't have had to face the embarrassment of what you're facing today at the ICJ.
Prime Minister's advisor on foreign affairs, Mr. Sartaj, he's already presented the charge sheet. If you go and study, the charge sheet against
presenting a charge sheet doesn't make it an official document that's been given to the government of India.
Let me complete now.
Why haven't you presented this to the government of India?
Now, let me complete now. The second thing is that this is a man who has killed many innocent people inside Pakistan, and he's a terrorist.
How do you know that?
So why do you think?
How do you know that? You have to prove that in a court of law, not in a kangaroo court,
or a person who has been killing innocent people.
Not in a kangaroo court.
That is Pakistan's point.
You have to prove this in a court of law, not in a kangaroo court. You know what the ICJ today said? One of the arguments that was put forth by the Pakistanis is that military courts, the ICJ doesn't have any jurisdiction over. The ICJ today clearly said, Simon, one second. The ICJ today clearly said that whether it's military court or civilian court, whether it's spy, terrorist or ordinary petty criminal, if Vienna Convention violation has happened, then the ICJ has jurisdiction in that matter.
Talking about ICJ, hanging or no hanging, the problem is, the issue is that Kulbhushan Jadhav is now established as a spy.
How?
And a terrorist. That is very clear.
How?
That,
show me one sentence today in today's order which said that he's a spy, that it establishes he's a spy. Show me one sentence.
Pakistan would certainly be coming up with all the evidences. Certainly, if there now is the case with ICJ, I'm not going to comment on what the lawyers would do in the ICJ.
No,
I'm telling you about the Pakistani perspective.
What I'm more curious about,
Pakistan thinks that.
No, Pakistan can think whatever it wants to think. Yeah, that's not the point. It's about
so does India.
It is what international law. It is what international law recognizes. Casey Singh, the point is this. The question that I asked
They haven't said.
One second, Daibur. Can I also go to Shashank? Shashank is an international lawyer. He's now joining us from The Hague. He can hear me, right? He can hear me? Shashank, you can hear me? Okay. Shashank, I want to know what happens now. The judge obviously hasn't set a date whereby he would require written submissions from both India and Pakistan and whereby he would begin the process of final hearing. But roughly, what time frame are we looking at? Are we looking at weeks, months?
We're looking certainly at months at the very least. What happened next is that the president of the court would meet with the representatives of the parties, get their views on when the submission should be filed by them. Okay. It is up to Pakistan, of course, then to object to the court's jurisdiction, because it still can do it. I heard somewhere in the discussion that the case has been admitted. Well, not really. I mean, it's just provisional measures, and the question of whether the court has jurisdiction or not may well come up later on in the case.
Okay.
And then once the written submissions are filed, and depending on whether Pakistan objects to jurisdiction on a preliminary basis or not, the court will then schedule hearings in the case. I note that it is most likely that hearings would not be held before, say, a period of a few months at least. I mean, and the states, the countries do need a few months. Their legal teams need a few months at least to write their submissions. And then if Pakistan objects to jurisdiction separately, then it will be an even longer process.
No, you believe that the longer India takes and Pakistan takes to go back to the ICJ and submit these written submissions, and the longer the court takes to schedule the final hearing, the better it is for India's case. Why is that?
For saying that, the reason for saying that is in past cases of this kind, and all of them, as we know, have involved the United States, the ultimate remedy, the ultimate sort of relief that has been given by the court always has been a review and reconsideration of the conviction and the sentence. So to note here, India in its application obviously wants the court to order a reversal of the judgment and to order Pakistan to release Mr. Jadhav.
That's right.
Now, I mean, that seems highly unlikely because the ICJ is not a court of criminal appeal sitting in appeal over a Pakistani court. The court in the past has said to the state, violating the right, that you must review and reconsider the conviction and the sentence in the light of the violations that have been found by us. Now, the means of doing this, the court has often left to the discretion of the respondent state. So, for example, in the US cases, the court said, well, you know, the United States, you must have a judicial process that allows for a review and reconsideration of this process. So what might happen in this case, if the court does indeed take this approach and the ultimate relief that it can grant in any event is a review and reconsideration, is that Pakistan might then think, okay, well, we can review and reconsider it according to our domestic legal system, and this is how we do it. And it's far from obvious that review and reconsideration will lead to an acquittal.
So let me put that then to GVL Narasimha Rao, that if you look at the ultimate end result in all of those cases involving the United States, whether it was Avena, Mexico versus US, Legrand, Germany versus US, or Paraguay versus US, ultimately the people in question went on to be executed because the US said, you know, we are not going to abide by the ICJ's decision. So even though the ICJ has told Pakistan today that this is binding and that you have to stay the execution till such time that the matter is finally disposed of, there's nothing that stops Pakistan from not listening to the ICJ.
No, Zakka, a point had been made just now by the speaker that the jurisdictional issue has not been settled, but that's, to my mind, that is not what the court has said. Court has categorically stated in today's order that then the jurisdictional issue has been settled. It said, in the view of the court, this is sufficient to establish that prima facie the jurisdiction under Article 1 of Operational Protocol exists. So certainly jurisdiction cannot be contested any further. I think it's an erroneous impression that the speaker was trying to give in my assessment. and therefore argument certainly what kind of relief you will get eventually in the form of a final decision, that needs to be seen. We have clearly stated what kind of a relief we want, and we have certainly asked the ICJ to annul the verdict of the court-martial in Pakistan. But certainly, I think if a final decision were to go in our favor, it would certainly mean at least the entire trial has to begin afresh, because this was a sham trial. There cannot be, this conviction cannot be even considered by the ICJ, because this was no trial at all. So if the guidelines were not followed, if conventions were not followed, so what kind of a trial is that? I think this gentleman is talking about a trial that would happen in a normal court, in a transparent manner. But this is a court-martial which had no transparency, no openness whatsoever, and no facts or no claims being made about the person being involved in any kind of operation.
You want to respond to that?
There is huge evidence.
The very first
there is a lot of evidence to show.
At the very first step itself, this was a violation.
It was an ISI mandated operation. It was ISI terrorist joint operation to implicate an innocent person. So this trial cannot be even considered. If a trial has to happen, it has to happen completely afresh.
The question is this, that at the very first... No, one sec. Today the ICJ ruled that there was prima facie violation of Article 36, paragraph 1 of the Vienna Convention, which explicitly states that if there are sending states and receiving states, then those receiving states have to, within days of capture of citizens of the sending state, A, apprise them of their legal rights, and B, grant consular access. So this whole question of a military trial, as sham as it was, comes much later. The trial happened much later. At the very first stage itself, it's prima facie. There's a violation of 36(1) of the Vienna Convention. So the court could very well turn around and say, at stage 1 itself, this whole process is ab initio null and void.
That's what the court thinks. But that's what the court thinks. Earlier, our lawyer friend has made some good points. And the point is that now, since ICJ has just asked to halt the hanging, and that is it, and they are going to look into the matter, they are going to go deeper into the matter. But till then, my point is that Kulbhushan Yadav, how did he appear in Pakistan? This is what we are discussing, you know, in Pakistan as well, that how come an Indian citizen came in Pakistan, we have him in custody. That is the point.
No, today the court said yes.
He was abducted in Iran.
He was abducted from Iran. Today the court said that the very fact of how he appeared, where he appeared, is in itself a dispute. That was the first thing that the court said. That
it's
yes,
a dispute, because if India is saying that he was abducted from Chabahar, then India has to prove it. Because we have in Pakistan, certainly we arrested him from Pakistan.
That's not how international law works.
India thinks he was in Chabahar.
That is not how international law works.
KC
Singh, what I'm curious about though, what I'm curious about though is what happens to the...
Hello?
Yeah, Shashank. Okay, Shashank, you want to make a quick point? Yeah, and then I'll go to KC Singh.
Yeah, I just wanted to make a couple of points in response to the comments that were made. I mean, the court, it must be very clear, the court has not decided that it has final jurisdiction in this case.
Okay. It is only decided that it has prima facie jurisdiction to issue provisional measures.
Okay.
All right, and that is obvious. I mean, it is obvious that if Mr. Jadhav was to be executed, the object of the case would be lost. So the threshold for jurisdictional sort of hurdles at the interim relief stage is lower. So it is incorrect to say that jurisdiction has been conclusively decided by the court, and I don't mean to sort of take sides here, but I think that's just technically it's incorrect. And the other point that I wanted to make was somebody also inferred from the language of the court's decision that Pakistan shall take all measures at its disposal. I think that the court would perhaps had in mind the domestic situation in Pakistan. Yes. Once again, I mean, that's pretty boilerplate language for the court, and it's a boilerplate order in a case of this kind. And the language does not really indicate all of this. I think what's happening here is we're jumping the gun, and we're really looking at issues that the court will definitely give careful and consider in due course. I think for now, what's essential is that to recognize that Mr. Jadhav at least gets to live. And to prepare for the road ahead.
Because
there's a difficult case ahead.
Got it. KC Singh, I want to know what bearing, if at all any, will today's decision have on the domestic legal process that is happening in Pakistan? As I understand, Kulbhushan Jadhav has 40 days to file this review. the first review after the death sentence was announced, and that 40-day period ends tomorrow. Are we any closer to knowing if that review has been filed, and how may today's decision affect that review?
Look, we are mixing up a number of things. Firstly, that is an autonomous process. What we learn is that the mother of Mr. Jadhav has already sent something which a High Commission has sent across to Pakistan and handed over. So there will be an autonomous process that will go on. But that in any case now the urgency is not there because we have a stay on execution. Earlier worry was if we don't join that process, then they may just execute him. Secondly, I agree with the previous expert. The judge very clearly said that as regards Pakistan's plaint, that they have modified their submission to the Vienna Convention in March, and there's a bilateral agreement of 2008. The judge said that that doesn't need to be decided at this stage. What he implied is it will be decided subsequently. So therefore that question is still open. Now finally again it's come out, but let me give you the consequences of a final judgment. Supposing India gets a judgment and a review is ordered. The review will be ordered not because the ICJ is going into the nature of the trial. Let's not be derailed by that. The review will be ordered because the right of India to have approached this citizen and the right of the citizen to approach the Indian government has been breached, and therefore the trial is vitiated by that. They are not going into the nature of the trial. It's simply the right that we had. Now the minute we get that right, even if a retrial takes place, they'll have to give us access to Jadhav, which is what we wanted. And that is something the Pakistan army does not want. Because the minute we talk to Jadhav, we get to know the whole story. Where he was picked up, by whom he was picked up. Then we can collect the evidence in Iran. The Iranians can help us. Must have been non-state actor. Was it a state actor, a non-state actor?
Yeah.
Who smuggled him across the border? Then we get that. That the Pakistani army fears. Therefore, if it comes to a retrial with access to Jadhav, then the game starts. Then either the army backs off or they start taking extrajudicial steps and, do what they did to Sarabjit.
Okay, can I go back to Ashok Malik? Because one of the sort of speculations, and this is coming more from the Pakistani side and less from the Indian side, is that there could potentially be a bilateral pull-aside between the two prime ministers on the sidelines of the SCO summit in Astana, which is in the first week of June. The last time they had a formal bilateral pull-aside was also on the sidelines of an SCO summit a couple of years ago in Ufa. Do you think the Jadhav story will have any bearing on this, if at all both prime ministers decide to meet?
If Mr. Jadhav does come home someday, irrespective of what the judgment, the final judgment of the ICJ is, or the final judgment of a potential retrial in Pakistan is, I think it will have to be a political call call for the Pakistani government to take maybe a political deal with the Indian government. I'm aware of that because it's going to be impossible for India to pull out Mr. Jadhav from Pakistani clutches, as it were, even if the final decision of the ICJ goes completely in our favor. Having said that, I don't know whether Mr. Nawaz Sharif is in a position to make any such offer today, even if he would want to. It's quite clear that there is an internal dynamic on in Pakistan between an army chief who is still settling down and a military that's flexing his muscles, and a prime minister who's been weak from day one and is facing re-election in 2018. Some of these internal tensions attention from them is being diverted by attacking India, by raising this idea, this phantom of India being Pakistan's great and eternal enemy, and so on and so forth, and in raking up issues such as that of Kulbhushan Jadhav, who is described as a terrorist one minute, as a spy another minute, as a spy come terrorist the third minute, and without offering any evidence. I'm willing to listen to the evidence or see the evidence, but Pakistan cannot get away with showing no evidence at all. So which is why what the pull-aside if it takes place at all, will achieve at the the pull-aside at the SCO meeting, I fail to see what will achieve at this stage. It's way too early in the process.
This point was raised by Ashok Malik, it was raised earlier by Pinak Chakravarti as well, that this whole civil-military conflict, Taimur Shamil, we've already seen that the military and civil sides in your country are not on the same page on the Dawn leak story, now in the Kulbhushan story too. I mean, this is a slap in the face for the military.
No, that's not true. I'm not giving you a Pakistani perspective. The thing is, when it comes to national security, certainly the civil and military, they are on the same page. And one more thing of consular access, and that is that Kulbhushan Yadav, according to the Pakistani perspective, is a terrorist. Now, my question is that do you give a consular access to a person who has killed innocent people inside Balochistan and Sindh and Karachi? Do you do that?
A process
that is the
of
issue.
law has to establish that, Taimur. Hang on, one second.
No,
just because you say it, just because you say it doesn't make him a terrorist.
And India.
A process of law has to establish that.
We have his confessional statement, sir. We have his confessional statement.
Confessional means nothing. Confessional mees nothing. What confessional are you talking about?
Confessional statement, a person who himself has said that he is an officer of Indian Navy and also is working with Raw. Don't you think that this is enough?
If I put you in custody, subject you to third degree...
Zakka, can I come in here?
You will... Yeah, Ashok.
Zakka, Taimur, I hate to say this to you, but the credibility of your government and your system, while I have great friends in Pakistan and it's a great country, the credibility of your government and your system is rock bottom. So when you say Kulbhushan admitted to a Pakistani authority that he was a terrorist or he has killed people, frankly, it is not believable without you offering evidence.
Exactly.
That is the whole problem.
Well, obviously,
credibility is just so low.
The evidence is that this Kulbhushan Yadav was presented in front of a court, a civil court in Pakistan, in front of magistrate, and then he was taken to the military custody. This is the point, if you understand.
If this so-called evidence was so good, Major General, if this evidence was so-called so good, why is it not being formally presented to the Government of India? Why is the Government of India not been provided a copy of the charge sheet, of the judgment? What is it that they relied upon to come to this conclusion? None of that is known to the Government of India through official channels.
Well, let's see.
I must tell you, we all know it. We may not speak it out. As far as the Pakistan-India relations are concerned, they are governed in Pakistan by Pakistan military, not by the Pakistan civil elected government.
So today's decision is as much a blow to the military as it is to the civil. Perhaps more to the military.
I have my doubts over it, whether the Pakistan is going to comply with it or not. And I am repeating this again, that even the ICJ also has a doubt, and that is how, in a very civilized manner, the ICJ has said, directed the Pakistan government to please ensure that he is not executed till the final decision is given, and keep us informed. Keep us informed of the actions you have taken.
Pinak Chakravarti, as a closing comment, I want you to elaborate on how this may exacerbate, if at all it will, the already existing tensions between civil and military in Pakistan.
Yes.
Well, it's already happening. I think you can see that the sniping has started against the civilian government. And
they're on the same page.
And obviously that snipe...
No, finish your point, Ambassador.
Sorry, who's speaking? I don't know. No, it has already started. The sniping has already started, and I think the sniping, the target is the civilian government, because the military obviously doesn't want to face the sniping and the criticism, because they have obviously goofed up. They have done all these silly things and opaque trial and all that. No evidence, nothing, no consular access. So they, without realizing, have violated all international conventions and law. But now the civilian government has to face the music. So they will try to put the blame on the civilian government. Already there is talk of forming a new legal team. The new legal team has been...
let him finish. One second. Let him finish, please. Let him finish, sir, please.
Let me finish, then you can give whatever perspective you want. The point is that the sniping has started, and already there is talk of forming a new legal team, etc.
Yes.
If you see some of the Pakistani TV channels and other commentaries that are coming, so clearly there is an element of turmoil within the Pakistani system, and that turmoil is basically because of the judgment. They thought that they will probably get a favorable judgment on all these specious points, but but who's going to accept those points?
I'm willing to. One second. As a closing comment. One second, Taimur. As a closing comment, I'm willing to go so far as to have a bet with everybody on this panel that just like in the Dawn leak story, ultimately a Tariq Fatmi and some other information officer got sacked for what was clearly a ham-handed job done by the military. In this case too, somebody in the legal team will get fired. Eventually, somebody in the legal team will get fired. The army will get exonerated.
The Pakistan military will never admit.
Exactly.
Let's see.
The Pakistan military will never admit that it goofed up.
The execution.
So just like in the Dawn Leaks case,
asked to halt the execution.
Ultimately,
and you have
the civil side, one or two officials from the legal
spare
team that represented Pakistan in The Hague will be left holding the bag.
No,
that's what will happen. I'm willing to take a bet on that.
You have got a very clear message from Pakistani army and Pakistani people.
Okay, I'm going to
that they
wrap
won't
up.
spare any terrorist.
I'm going to wrap up. GVL, 10 seconds. You want to give a closing comment? 10 seconds. 10 seconds.
No,
can I come in?
Zakka, that Kulbhushan Jadhav is a spy, is a terrorist. This is a cock and bull story that Pakistan also doesn't believe. I think he was abducted in the month of March 2016, and in December, Sartaj Aziz told his own, who functions as almost like foreign minister,
do you think that
he
Iran,
told the Pakistani Senate,
how do you think
he
that
told members of Pakistan Senate that we don't have any evidence against him being a spy. So stop lying and stop exposing your own. Stop exposing your own chicanery.
Yeah, we all know where Chabahar is. Yeah, we're building a port there. For God's sake. Okay, I'm going to wrap up.
Chabahar is in Iran. How can you abduct somebody from Iran and bring him back to Pakistan?
No, hang on. Why don't you go ahead and no, 1 second. Taimur, why don't you after this show? After this show, why don't you go Google Iran, Chabahar, India? You'll get to know that India's been building a port there for a number of years. So we know as much where Chabahar is more than where you know Chabahar is. I'm going to wrap up. I'm going to wrap up by saying simply this. I'm willing to venture out and put this bet that in the next few days, somebody from this legal team is going to get sacked. The military will never take the blame for this. They will always be exonerated, as has been the case in the Dawn Leak story. So will the case be in the Kulbhushan Jadhav story. I'm going to end the discussion here. Thank you very much to all my panelists. I'm going to take a quick break. When we come back on the other side, how may this impact? How may this set a precedent for future cases? I said this at the top of the show. This is the first time that India has decided to go to a multilateral judicial organ like the International Court of Justice. It has been reluctant to do that even in the case of, for example, say Captain Saurav Kalia. Even the Supreme Court, after Captain Kalia's father went to the court, even the Supreme Court ruled that this is a fit case to take to the ICJ. India was reluctant to take that matter to the ICJ. They made a departure from the past in the case of Kulbhushan Jadhav, and at least as an initial first step, a significant first step, that has been rewarded. That risk taken has been rewarded. How may this set a precedent for the future? Quick break. Welcome back. The ICJ verdict today and the huge embarrassment to Pakistan holds out massive implications, not just on Pakistan's entire stand on Kulbhushan Jadhav, but also beyond that, on the dynamics between the Pakistan government and the country's all-powerful military and their stand towards India. Let's just take a look at some of the potential implications. Pakistan A will have to reveal all the details on Jadhav's whereabouts, his safety, where he was picked up, who picked him up. The judgment may trigger a fresh round of bickering between the Pakistan government and the Pakistan army. It does demoralize, let's not forget, and let's not downplay this for a moment, that it was a military court that tried and sentenced and convicted this man. This could potentially demoralize the Pakistan military that linked India with terror. Frustrated Pakistani generals could then look up to step up the anti-India terror machine, which aids India's image of not meddling in Balochistan, as has been the allegation that has been made time and again by the Pakistani side. But let's also listen in to Nawaz Sharif's Foreign Affairs advisor, Sartaj Aziz, who's de facto foreign minister for the Pakistan civilian government. He maintains that the ICJ just made an observation and not a verdict.
मेरा ख्याल है ज्यादा बड़ी टीम की जरूरत हो गई है तो 3 दिन के नोटिस पे हमने फौरी तौर पे किया। 3 दिन के अंदर उन्होंने लंदन से आए और यहाँ पे अपना केस तैयार किया और मजबूरी तौर पर तमाम का तासर ये है कि उसने बहुत इस तरह केस पेश किया, लेकिन उसमें जो बात है प्रोविजनल ऑर्डर्स की, कि प्रोविजनल तौर पे उसने वो किया। उसने ये बात कही थी कि उनके पास टाइम मौजूद है, कोई अर्जेंसी नहीं है, लेकिन अदालत ने ये कहा कि ये चूंकि अगस्त तक ये लिमिट जाती है तो अगर इस दौरान में फर्ज कीजिए इस केस के मेरिट को देखने में ज़्यादा टाइम लगता है, तो इसलिए एक प्रोविजनल ऑर्डर उन्होंने किया। इसमें हमारे वकला और अटॉर्नी जनरल मजीद वजाहत करेंगे। ICJ ने ये कहा है कि उससे उसका हक जो है वो इफेक्ट नहीं होता, लेकिन उन्होंने ऑपरेशन में कोई हुक्म जारी नहीं किया, इस पर सिर्फ एक राय का इजहार किया है। और जैसे मैंने पहले कहा कि उसमें हमने ये देखना है कि काउंसलर एक्सेस जो है वियना कन्वेंशन में अगर उसका थोड़ा बहुत हक बनता भी है, तो जो इसमें हमारा बुनियादी मौक़िफ़ है सिक्योरिटी के एंगल का, वो अभी भी रेलिवेंट है कि हमारा सिक्योरिटी का जो एंगल है वो कॉम्प्रोमाइज ना हो। तो इसको मजीद हमारे एक्सपर्ट एग्जामिन करेंगे, हम एक दफ़ा एग्जामिन करके फिर इसका जवाब।
I mean, it's amazing despite this provisional measure, despite this interim order, and this is as direct language that can be used in a matter such as this. Such as these things, it's an observation by the court, not an order. But let's also listen in to the Defence and Finance Minister Arun Jaitley. He was on a two-day trip to Jammu and Kashmir. He spoke on the sidelines of a GST meeting and underlined the significance of today's verdict by the International Court of Justice.
It's a great vindication of India's stance, and the entire Indian team at Hague deserves to be congratulated. The External Affairs Minister, Mrs. Sushma Swaraj, who piloted this strategy, Mr. Harish Salve, who effectively argued this matter, deserve a special mention. In the annals of international law, this judgment is a great victory of the rule of law itself.
All right, we'll take a quick break here on the program, but Face Off continues. It's a special edition of Face Off, 90 minutes tonight. On the other side, we'll have a fresh panel joining us and what may be the implications of this decision for India. Remember, this is just a first step. As significant as it is, we will now have to prepare just as watertight a case in the final hearings as and when the ICJ decides to take this up for final hearing and disposal. Quick break. We'll return in just a moment on the other side.
Pakistan shall take all measures at its disposal to ensure that Mr. Jadav is not executed pending the final decision.
The International Court of Justice at The Hague stays Pakistan's execution against former Indian naval officer Kulbhushan Jadhav. The order throws out Pakistan's contention of the case being outside the jurisdiction of the ICJ and outside of the Vienna Convention. India expresses relief and satisfaction at the ICJ order, terming it an unambiguous and essential first step in safeguarding Kulbhushan Jadhav. Attorney General Mukul Rohatgi expresses hope that Pakistan will now provide consular access. An ashamed Pakistan now looks for a saving grace. It twists the order to claim that the ICJ order is not binding and it only calls for status quo to be maintained. It says it's determined to pursue the case to a logical conclusion. Never before has India decided to approach the International Court of Justice in the case of an individual. It was a departure from the past when it decided to go to the ICJ and ask for justice for Kulbhushan Jadhav, and today it has been vindicated. Every argument that Pakistan put forth was quashed and in detail. Pakistan's argument, number one, that the ICJ has no jurisdiction in this case because it concerns a matter of national security. This is what the ICJ ruled today. There's no question of challenging the ICJ's jurisdiction. At least at this stage, prima facie, the ICJ has jurisdiction over this matter. Argument number two put forth by Pakistan, that the ICJ order is not binding on member countries. The justice, the president of the ICJ, Ronnie Abraham, made it absolutely explicit today, saying that the order today is binding on both the states, i.e. India and Pakistan. Pakistan's argument number three, that India's application on Kulbhushan Jadhav was misconceived and must be dismissed. There is no urgency. Today, the court said there is definitely urgency. It doesn't matter whether it can be stayed till August or September, that the death sentence in and of itself is sufficient to demonstrate that there is prejudice towards the rights claimed by India. Argument number 4 put forth by Pakistan is that consular access can be denied to anybody who's involved in espionage or in terrorist activities. The ICJ today just simply threw that out the window, saying that the Vienna Convention ensures there is consular access should be given to everybody, even for those who are charged with espionage or charged with terrorism-related crimes. Pakistan's argument that the 2008 bilateral pact between Islamabad and New Delhi on consular access takes primacy over the Vienna Convention. The court today ruled that that is not the case. At least at this stage, the 2008 agreement does not set aside the obligations that a state has under the Vienna Convention. So, like I said, an unprecedented decision by the government of India to approach the ICJ. Never before has it done so in the matter of an individual, and today that risk has paid off. Here in our studio, Shilkant Sharma, former diplomat, Major General Rajesh Arya, defense analyst. We're also joined via satellite by Ashok Malik, senior journalist and resident commentator, and Nalin Kohli, spokesperson of the BJP. Nalin, as a lawyer, and I'd like you to weigh in on this right at the top. When India decided to go to the ICJ, many people said that look, this might not be a smart idea. This could open a Pandora's box. India itself has argued in a number of occasions at the ICJ that on bilateral matters the court does not have jurisdiction. But today, after this unambiguous interim order, it's clear that India's stand has been vindicated.
Well, you need to bear in mind the critical thing here is one, and that's legally speaking, what's the subject matter on which you go to the International Court of Justice. In this case, the subject matter is direct. It involves human rights. It involves about Pakistan being a signatory to the Vienna Convention and therefore not honouring its own commitments under the Vienna Convention. And at the threshold, Pakistan's every argument has not found favour, as you just reported. So I think what is critical is that the arguments on which they also chose to go there finally. And what Pakistani commentators are saying, we must also take note that this is only at the preliminary level. This was not really on the merits or the evidence. That itself is also a weak argument, because they sought to present before the International Court of Justice the video or the confession statement.
That's right.
The video confession statement, which was not accepted. So you don't expect a country to go to such a big forum out there and say that we will bring our best arguments later. Because just like at the Supreme Court, for example, when there is an admission of a case, you want to bring in your firmest foot, you want to bring in everything there so that the matter gets admitted and thereafter adjudicated. So I think Pakistan is doing a covering up today. They have to provide consular access. If they don't provide consular access, then there'll be a serious question as to why are they denying it? What is it that they is preventing them from providing it? On a political side, one comment.
Yeah.
This is a reaffirmation today and a confirmation of Prime Minister Narendra Modi and his government's approach towards Indian citizens. If an Indian citizen is in need somewhere out there beyond the territory of India, India reaches out. The government makes every effort. We see that with the External Affairs Ministry. We've seen it with Yemen. We've seen it with Tunisia. We've seen it in Afghanistan. We've seen it in personal crisis where people have and the ministry and the government has responded. So how can we not respond to Kulbhushan Yadav?
Yeah, and this
we are happy today that Mr. Harish Salve has gone out there and done a sterling job on this entire thing in presenting our arguments. And yes, it's a good day in terms of the first important step ahead for Kulbhushan Yadav, his family, and of course all those who are hoping for his safety and security to return home.
This is in keeping with what both the External Affairs Minister as well as the Home Minister said in Parliament, that they will do everything that is possible to save the life of this innocent Indian citizen. Shilkant Sharma, this is also as much a temporary reprieve for Kulbhushan Yadav as it is a stinging rebuke to this whole military court system in Pakistan. I just want to read some of these numbers for our viewers. Just today, 4 people were hanged by military courts, or sentenced to be hanged by military courts in Pakistan. A total of more than 450 people have been executed in the last 2 years plus since these military courts have been established. Today, the ICJ explicitly said that it doesn't matter whether it's a civilian court or a military court. If there is prima facie violation of the Vienna Convention 36(1), then we have every jurisdiction to look into it.
That's true. Actually, recently in the UN system, another organization had strictures against Pakistani practice of setting up these military courts.
That's right.
Because their credibility is zilch at the moment. And as you put down very forcefully and very correctly, that every argument put forward before the ICJ was brushed aside.
Yeah.
It doesn't carry any credibility,
in fact, the judge listed that out one by one and said on jurisdiction you're wrong, on the other matters you're wrong, which in and of itself was quite surprising.
And you see, this is the hapless civilian facade of this military system there, which is trying to protect it, but it gets broken so mercilessly in reality in the ICJ. These Pakistani people who are advocating for the military, they had a civilian facade.
Yeah.
But we know the state there is run by the military. And
do you believe a fallout of this, Major General, could be that ultimately whatever goes wrong in Pakistan, the military never takes the blame for it? Ultimately what will happen is, and because there's a lot of commentary already about the ham-handed nature in which the Pakistanis went about this legal case of the ICJ, ultimately some civilian officers might face the boot, but the army will never take flack for this.
Zakka, if you look at it, any incident which Pakistan has undertaken against India, be it Kargil, be it Bombay incident, all these have a backing from the ISI, which is their military agency. It is unfortunate, and Pakistan keeps blowing this trumpet that it's a democratic country. Pakistan is only for the facade purpose is a democratic country. All affairs in Pakistan are run by the military.
Yeah.
All these actions are run by the military. Nothing happens without the military approval as far as anything international relations between India and Pakistan are concerned. So therefore, in this case also, the blame will go to military. Blame will go to the civil government.
Yeah.
The military government will never accept anything.
Ashok Malik, already you have a Prime Minister in Nawaz Sharif in Pakistan whose authority has been undermined from day one. More recently, he is now the subject of an inquiry by a joint investigation team which has military personnel in it, ISI as well as military intelligence personnel. He has faced huge flack publicly on Twitter by the DG ISPR rebuking a decision on the Dawn leaks case. You reckon this might further undermine his position, further weaken and already weaken Nawaz Sharif?
Well, I don't think he took a decision on Kulbhushan Jadhav or on any of the aspects we've discussed so far. But it will, there's no direct sort of complicity in a sense, because the civilian government doesn't really matter on issues of India and national security, as it were. But in its desire to divert attention from what has obviously been a fiasco for the military, the Pakistani army will now try and put more pressure on the civilian government, on India generally. It will speak with greater bravado at home. And in that sense, the tensions between the military and civilian government, which have been there from day one, will only exacerbate. We have a strange situation in Pakistan today, where there's a new general. He's been there for a few months now, who's still settling in, who's trying to sort of establish the muscularity of the military once again. Yeah. There's a former general who has not quite gone away. He still remains a large presence in the region and in Pakistan's polity. And there's a prime minister who's weak, who's playing his own games, and who's also approaching re-election in 2018. So for all of them, for all the players in this cast, to be anti-India, to call India names, to call some Indian you picked up from Iran as a terrorist one moment and a spy the next moment, it's natural. This pays dividends domestically. So I expect some of this bravado, some of these outlandish statements will continue in the coming days, as Pakistan seeks to hide the fact that it has actually lost out at the ICJ, even if the loss is only temporary.
Nalin, the point is that this is a rebuke of the Pakistan military, and like Ashok rightly said, this is for General Bajwa a bloody nose. He's barely settling in. He's been in office for a few months, and this is clearly a bloody nose for him. In order to mitigate some of that flack that could be coming the Pakistan military's way, do you think one of the potential fallouts could be perhaps, the LOC getting hot again, increased sort of activity there, God forbid, possibly even some kind of a attempt at terrorist attacks? I mean, because at the end of the day, it's the military that's been hit because of today's verdict, as much, if not more, than the civilian government.
Pakistan can choose to live in denial. India, lots of things have changed. The change of government and the leadership of Prime Minister Modi is a leadership that's clear. It's a leadership that's not going to be, if I may say, mollycoddling to a neighbor who's not interested in establishing good relationships or maintains a duplicity in terms of trying to establish a relationship. So now the onus and the shoe is really on Pakistan. They have to decide what they want to do. If they decide to be in denial, which is their standard way, if they try to divert attention by something that is going to anger public sentiments here, it's going to be seen as retaliatory, or it's going to be seen in terms of instigation, then whatever appropriate has to be done, the government will so consider. In any case, there is a functional freedom that's been given to our armed forces to respond on the local level as they deem fit, whether it's in terms of cross-border firing, whether it's in terms of any kind of action that they need to take. So the government not necessarily needs to micromanage it on a day-to-day. However, with all of it comes further collateral damage. With Pakistan, the collateral damage of an embarrassing situation, as Ashok said, a badly handled situation, all of it is already there. Now, if they want to take it further or go deeper down in the mud, it's for them to decide. No. End of the day, the international community has a problem with Pakistan because this is a country that perpetrates terror, is a safe haven for terrorists. It denies the existence of terrorists that they groom themselves.
Here's the
so if they are going
thing.
to now start reneging from their international obligations, then on what terms do you deal? What terms do you deal with Pakistan? Just my final comment, Zakka. For example, a question that will logically arise. If you are not willing to accept the Vienna Convention, then would it not be a logical expectation that you won't even accept agreements that have been brokered, say, by the World Bank, say the Indus Water Treaty? So where does the line stop? So Pakistan has to realize that, and Pakistan, I'm sure, realizes that. But if they act despite that, so be it. That is for them to decide.
What I find amazing, and Pakistan will never go back on the Indus Water Treaty because they are the beneficiary in this. What I find amazing, though, is while on the one hand at the ICJ they say that there's no violation of Vienna Convention and that Vienna Convention doesn't apply in the Kulbhushan case, just in the last 24 hours, there's been this big story between Pakistan and Afghanistan. Pakistan has alleged that 2 of their diplomats were taken hostage in Afghanistan, and that to them is a violation of the Vienna Convention. Here you have the exact same scenario that has happened, although Kulbhushan Jadhav is not a diplomat, but an Indian national who's been abducted, and we are saying that it's a violation of Vienna Convention. The Pakistanis don't buy a word of it. Today the ICJ had to step in. The exact same thing has happened between the Pakistanis and the Afghans, and the Pakistanis are saying, oh my God, this is a violation of Vienna Convention. So again, this whole selective approach, that when it suits them it's a violation, when it doesn't, it's not.
No, it dents their diplomacy. Actually,
exactly.
This ICJ judgment, whatever they might say, the Pakistani diplomacy, everyone notices this, has lost out. They cannot hold their face and continue with the hubris in the UN that, you know, we are this, we are, because it proves how hollow their claims are.
Yeah. You know, here is a country that at the drop of a hat is wanting to internationalize any bilateral issue between India and Pakistan. And today we've gone to a multilateral court, and the court has given a very stinging verdict, a very stinging rebuke to the military of Pakistan. And the Pakistan Foreign Office spokesperson says, oh, the ICJ has no jurisdiction. Sartaj Aziz says this is merely an observation. I mean, is it denial, or is it again this whole selective convenience bit?
Zakka, I'll again go back to any incident you take in the past. Pakistan has always denied any action taken by them against India. They have always advocated to the world that it is India who has been proactive or aggressive in the Indo-Pak relations. No incident they have ever accepted. They have not accepted our cross-border incident. They have not accepted the collateral damage being caused in the J&K sector by violation of ceasefire firing. They have not accepted the mutilation of our soldiers. They did not accept the Bombay Taj incident. They did not accept initially the Kargil intrusions, and they did not accept their soldiers dead. So they have been living in a denial mode. But the only good thing is, by this time our government going to the ICJ, is that couple of such favorable, or I would say the unfavorable decision against Pakistan will generate an international perception of making things easy to declare Pakistan as a terrorist state.
Okay, I'll get one final comment from Ashok. You know, let's say for argument's sake, the Pakistanis turn around and be defiant about this whole thing and say that, look, we will not listen to the ICJ's order, though the president today made it clear that it is binding. If they turn around and say, we're not going to abide by this order, do you think ultimately, if it came down to the UN Security Council, their so-called iron brother, their so-called all-weather friend, China will bail them out? Because there was a Chinese judge also today, by the way, in that 11-judge bench.
Yeah, and he voted against Pakistan.
Exactly.
The Chinese judge also voted against Pakistan. You know, international ICJ judgments of a similar nature have been defied in the past by countries such as the US. Frankly, despite the bravado, despite the brave words of some Pakistani commentators and of officials today, I don't think Pakistan will set aside this order and refuse to obey it. I don't think Pakistan will execute Kulbhushan Jadhav in the interim period. I think Pakistan will sort of hold its horses. I'm hoping, and I know this is a wishful hope, that Pakistan will also realize that it's not just this order which has gone against it. There is also an international perception, though that was not the part of the ICJ's judgment today, that Pakistan's military court system is totally opaque. So if Kulbhushan Jadhav is indeed a terrorist or a spy, by all means punish him. But you have to establish that before the international community with a due legal process by citing evidence which is incontrovertible. Pakistan has done nothing of that sort. It has simply said, take our word for it, we've got this guy, he's guilty, we've decided he's guilty, we're going to punish him.
Yeah.
And that doesn't work. That is not how mature nations behave. And that is not what mature nations are expected to do.
You know, what this really does is...
That is the real lesson for Pakistan from this.
It opens up a real Pandora's box. This whole military court system, which is so opaque, and no one quite knows, you know, what's the kind of standards they go by, what's the kind of evidence that they go by, and more than 450 people have been executed in the last 2.5 years. I think what this does, what the ICJ decision today, and as clear as it was, as clear as an interim verdict can be, it really opens up this Pandora's box where the Pakistan military might find it difficult to justify the continuance of these military courts in the name of snuffing out terrorism. I'm going to leave it at that. I want to thank all my guests, Shilkat Sharma, Major General Rajesh Arya, Nalin Kohli and Ashok Malik for joining us. I want to reiterate with the comments that I started off with, that this is a first step, a very significant first step. Like KC Singh said in the previous hour, this is a quarter of the battle won. We've got 3/4 more to go, and hopefully this will keep us in good stead. Thanks for tuning in to this special edition, extended edition of Face Off at 9. I'll catch you folks again tomorrow night at 9 p.m. Good night.